Greg Steube of the state of Florida and Congressman Chip Roy of Texas, fresh off of his own trip to the southern border. Gentlemen, thanks so much for taking the time. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pleasure. Of course, yeah. So, Congressman Steube, we'll start with you. The pictures from Democrat Henry Cuellar, which, to his credit, a Democrat releasing these, is a Texas guy. It says a lot. This is a real dagger for this Biden team, isn't it?
Well, it does say a lot. Those pictures are coming from a Democrat of all people.
Yeah.
When the Secretary of DHS just said that the border's closed down. So something's not jiving, and he's not being honest with the American people. In fact, over 500 children are coming to the border a day. We had over 100,000 people just in the month of February. But the DHS Secretary is going to tell the American people that the border's closed. We're not taking anybody anymore. Yet the facts remain very, very different. Not only are we admitting them, but we're getting hotel rooms for them. We're spending $1 million on that. And in the last COVID package, there was more than $4 billion for benefits for illegal immigrants already in the country.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. $90 million on hotel rooms for illegal immigrants. That's your money, ladies and gentlemen out there. That is your money. You worked all day, and it's paying for hotels for people that ran across the border. Congressman Roy, when you were doing your tour last week, Laredo, Texas, you were in. Migrants actually tried to get into the country, I guess, during your interview with Breitbart. Let's go ahead and take a look.
How are you going to keep them safe? Where's the guy? Where's he hollering from?
Pretty crazy to see it happen right in front of you, I would imagine. Give us the story and also talk about how much worse this could get.
Well, yeah, a week ago right now, I was actually having dinner with Henry Cuellar in Laredo, Texas, and then I went down to the border, rode around with Border Patrol for about 4 or 5 hours, was a part of about 15 apprehensions. They had about 100 apprehensions during that window during our shift. And then we ended up at the border around midnight, and I was there with Ildefonso Ortiz, with Breitbart, and we were doing that interview, and you saw what happened right behind us. And there was 3 that then ran back into the water and ran across the river because we were standing right there, and they saw us as they saw Border Patrol running to go nab the 2 guys that came across. And look, here's the thing. It is far worse than people understand. Our Border Patrol agents are overwhelmed. We talked to an agent who had just seen a bunch of narcotics being brought in across the river and brought into a storage facility. He couldn't get there because they can't navigate, and he was the only guy in a 3-mile sector. Because the entire Border Patrol in Laredo is down in McAllen running processing facilities, because while the DHS secretary is lying to the American people saying the border is secure, what they're doing is they're literally catching and releasing people and just pouring them into the country. Right. Yes, they're using Title 42 to repel some away, but they're letting literally thousands of people come into the United States, irrespective of whether they've got COVID. I was down at Carrizo Springs last Monday, and there are literally dozens of kids in that facility that have COVID. I know. I was there and I saw. Right. And they're being completely disingenuous. They're lying to the American people. The DHS secretary should be ashamed of himself. We're empowering cartels to run people across the border, and they're making $11 million a day in the Laredo sector, $3,000 to $7,000 a head. Yeah. And all of this is undermining our security, and it's endangering the immigrants that they say in the false name of compassion they're helping. And it's a lie.
It is something else. They have created such a mess. Congressman Steube, press reluctantly covering this story. They've begun now. Of course, they didn't want to have to do it. Reporters still don't have access to the border, though. They don't have access to these facilities they want. This was Jen Psaki today.
When will reporters be allowed to tour facilities holding children who cross the southern border?
Well, first, we are working to finalize details, and I hope to have an update in the coming days.
I mean, I just have to point out that, the pressure, Congressman Steube, on the White House over this has been so much easier than it was under Trump. I mean, do you remember the way that they treated the Trump administration during a story like this? It's unbelievable to see how respectful they are. You got kids in cages, and the media is just so easy.
Can you imagine for a moment if that was the Trump administration denying access to the media to facilities along the border with a crisis at the magnitude that we're experiencing? The mainstream media would be losing their ever-loving mind on TV 24/7, criticizing the Trump administration and the president constantly for hiding the fact that he has kids in cages like the pictures that you saw,
Yeah.
when in fact the Trump administration inherited those cages from the Obama-Biden administration, and then they improved the situation at the border. All the while, then Biden now is increasing the kids in cages and then taking people and putting them, after they get across the border, in hotels that are paid for by our tax dollars.
Congressman Roy, I heard you, or I saw you shaking your head. Same question to you. I mean, now it's just a difficult situation, right?
Yeah, it's amazing that for weeks now they've said we have no crisis, we have no emergency. Yet the Federal Emergency Management Agency is operating facilities in Midland, Texas, because we have overflows of unaccompanied alien children. They're now taking the Civic Center in Dallas. They're going to run people there. Now they've got 5,000 going into San Diego. All of this is purposeful. Democrats know exactly what they're doing. They're encouraging this behavior. You saw that the president of El Salvador was on Tucker last week saying you're destroying our country. This is the Democrats' agenda. It's all political. And they're empowering cartels, as I said before, endangering immigrants, endangering Americans. Right now, the reason I'm talking to you from a car, I was meeting with law enforcement in Fredericksburg, Texas, Kerrville, Texas. I'm talking to people throughout the district. There are high-speed chases occurring up here, and we're about 120 miles from the border. The reality here is it's hurting Texans, it's hurting Americans, and it's hurting the immigrants. Democrats lie when they say that they're helping.
Yeah, no, you got it exactly right. We got time for one more. Congressman Steube, I want to change the subject here for a second. You just put forward a bill to sanction Iranian-backed militia responsible for American deaths in Iraq. The group is called KSS. Talk a little bit about what this would do.
Yeah, it would sanction this organization. This is the same organization that worked under Soleimani, who, thanks to President Trump, is no longer on this earth to commit terror across our country in the Middle East and to kill Americans. These organizations and Iranian-backed militias have killed over 600 of our service members with IEDs, improvised explosive devices. I served in Iraq in 06 to 07, and these are the type of people that we need to be standing against, and we need to have sanctions from our American embassies and from the American government, not allowing these terrorist organizations to do money laundering, to transfer money, to have coordination between businesses and other countries. And so this bill would sanction KSS and not allow them to commit the type of terrorist activities and get the money for the type of terrorist activities that they're committing in the Middle East and otherwise.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Two of our favorites from Congress, Greg Steube and Chip Roy from Florida and Texas, respectively. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time. Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.